All right. Hello, everyone. I don't know who's going to join me today, but I promise that this one will be a treat. I normally, on this channel, I've been going live uh, during the week. Um, and it just so happened that this one falled on the weekend. So um, today I have with me Curtis Scoon from ScoonTV. Someone I've been following on social media at least pre-COVID, and I think I submitted one article to his platform. As we'll discuss, Curtis has his own platform, and he has his own operation. So I've been following him for a while. This is someone I think very highly of, and I've been, years ago I said, okay, if I could talk to this gentleman, that would be off the bucket list. So hopefully, this one is just happening to fall in Black History Month. We're going to cover some historical aspects, but I hope that we can do this again and again. I'm going to play my quick intro, and then I'm going to bring Curtis up, and I have some questions for him, and we're going to see where the conversation goes. So I'll see you on the other side of the intro. And this is going to be a fun discussion. Let me see, where is it? There it is. So, where did this topic come from? So I'm going to admit that because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. Black History Month 2025. It might not be the Black history that you like or want to hear about, but it's Black history nonetheless. So, where did this topic come from? So I'm going to admit that because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. In this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. And also, Black History Month, it might not be the history that you expect or want, but it's history. It's Black history nonetheless. So, everybody, today I have Curtis Scoon from ScoonTV. Just a really quick plug for my book. Curtis is a writer. We're going to talk about writing. He has a bunch of different things going on his end. I've been using my platforms to do some advertising. But for those who don't know, this is my book, The Engineers of Western New York Basketball Story. It's more than a story about basketball. It's a story about making your way in the world. And it's also a bit of a manhood journey as well. I think we're going to talk about some aspects of that as well today. But just briefly, this is available on Amazon in the ebook, hardcover, and paperback editions. But I'm also doing a sale here for my subs. I'll be selling signed copies. So if you want a signed copy and you're watching this, you can send me a payment there at any of those payment handles in the ticker. But make sure you share your mailing address with me so I know where to send it. And I'm discounting the hardcover $10. So for me, it'll be $25 for the hardcover, and then for the paperback, it'll be $22. I'll take $5 off of the paperback. It's overall, it costs less, so I'm taking less off. But anyway, I just wanted to make that announcement. And with that, I'm going to bring Curtis up. I see someone else in the chat who is also familiar with Curtis, who I also think is going to enjoy this. He's back there laughing.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
How's it
Glad
going, Curtis?
to be here. Good, man. Good.
Okay.
Good. I want to tell your subs, it's my fault that it's on the weekend because I missed my opportunity on Friday. So he's doing this for me. He's gracious enough to let me come on Sunday. Thank you, Anwar.
Well, thank you, Curtis, for hey man, I know you wear several hats and you have your own operations going. A funny thing is on a Friday, during that slot, I'm usually out at happy hour. So I usually don't stream on Friday. Unless
Okay.
there's a good reason.
I
So
hope this makes up for it. You know?
yeah, it certainly does. It certainly does. Okay. All right. So I'll jump into the questions. I want to
Let's
respect
go.
your time.
I'm here as long as you need me, man. We can
Okay.
go.
All right. All right. All right.
All right.
Yeah. So Curtis, so to those who have followed you to any degree, they know that you wear several hats. I was thinking myself, if I described you, that you're an entrepreneur, author, content creator, philanthropist, and based upon your conversation on your platform on Tuesday, you're also in the entertainment industry. How would you describe yourself?
In 2015, I was at the Kentucky Derby, and a young white dude walked up to me, and he said, "Sir, you look important. What do you do?" And I told him, "Anything I want to do." And I think that's how I see myself. However, whatever I want to do, that's what I do. And I didn't say it as politely as I just did for your audience, because I thought it was kind of odd that he asked me that, right? But in the context of this platform here, yeah, that's how I see myself. That's how I describe myself. Whatever it is I put my mind to, I do it, whether it be writing a script, whether it be producing on TV, whether it be writing articles, mental health businesses, philanthropy. I'm working on a development deal, and I'm not formally trained in any of it. It's just, you just got to have a drive and a strong mind. And I believe I possess those things.
Okay. Now, on that particular date, when that gentleman asked you that, were you wearing a suit? Because I know sometimes the way we package ourselves gives off a certain aura. Was it that, or was it something else? Just the fact
Well,
that you were there at the horse races.
it was the Derby, right? So
Yeah.
everybody has on the nice dresses and hats, but for some reason, I wonder what that could be. I stood out, right? And he approached me and said, maybe he thought I was an athlete or somebody in sports or something. I don't know. But I was just minding. I wasn't offended, but I really just told him how I felt genuinely. And I did it with no filter.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're gonna come back to that. Do you want to say a few words before we get started? I know Abdul in the chat, he knows who you are, but for the folks who are unfamiliar with you, do you want to describe ScoonTV and some of your operations?
I'm really just a man who makes adjustments and adapts to what life throws at me. I have my own media platform, ScoonTV. It's on its own designated server. I have an app, ScoonTV app, that you can download in Google Play or the Apple Store. I do my live stream every Tuesday at 8 p.m. through my app. And the reason why I emphasize my app, my own server, is because during COVID, and even now, you can't say certain things on social media. And I want my platform to be a censorship-free zone, because when you utilize other people's, mechanisms, apparatus, you have to abide by their rules. It's only right? And it's not that I'm big on being a rule breaker, but I don't want anyone to limit my expression. And it's not just about me, right? I'm trying to get an Israeli writer right now to write in my town hall section, because I have a Palestinian who's on the ground in Gaza writing for my town hall section. So I don't choose sides, right? I offer my platform to everyone. And I think that's how it should be. That's why that section of my platform is called the town hall. I'm also a filmmaker. I worked on American Gangster. I produced a Jamaican Shower Posse episode, co-produced the Supreme Team episode, and I was a consultant. But really, I was a producer on all three. They just, they took their time giving me credit because I had never done it before. But it's not that hard. At least it wasn't that hard for me, right? And then I produced my own independent film, Black, White, and Blue, about race, politics, and police. It's on Amazon right now. during the making of Black, White, and Blue, I went to Detroit because we were going to go to Flint. There was the Flint water crisis at the time, and they were saying that was environmental racism. When we try to get political leverage in America, we have to frame everything as being racist to make people pay attention, whether it is or it isn't, in my opinion. So we went up there, and I happened to run into the son of the great Coleman Young, the first Black mayor of Detroit. That's Coleman Young II. And we've been working together ever since. I became his biggest backer when he ran for mayor in 2017. And then I was his biggest backer when he ran for Congress in 2018. In 2021, I wasn't his biggest backer, but I donated substantially to his campaign, and I made his campaign commercials for him, because all my time with him, I was documenting his movements. So I was able to put together some good commercials for him. He's running again this year. I'm not sure for which position. He's in the city council. I don't know if he's going to run for that again. I think so. But I'm there with him again. And he and I started his foundation. So it's a STEM foundation, because I found like so many young Black kids focus on social media, entertainment, TikTok, influencers. And I'm not knocking those things, right? But we can't be a one-dimensional people. There's more to us than just rapping, dancing. And some people are really good at those things, and they should pursue it. But however, it's not for everybody. And then when we all concentrate our efforts in one specific area, it leaves all the other areas to everyone else, and they flourish quietly and surpass us, because they're getting all of that money that we decided that wasn't important, because we all wanted to be famous. So yeah, me and Coleman started the STEM Foundation in Detroit, CAY, the #2 foundation.org. I am the executive director of it. I've never taken a dime from it. I've donated substantially to it. And we've even gotten a letter from the superintendent of schools, Vitti, in Detroit, for the work that we've done, providing training and equipment to students in Detroit public schools. So, and just on and on. I'm working on a senior living project right now. And all of that happened was an outgrowth of my work with Black, White, and Blue, because I had never been to Detroit until 2016. I went there to invest in property. And what I saw, it just saddened me, because at the time it had over 100,000 abandoned houses. And this was a city that at that time was like 87% Black. And it was predominantly Black in leadership. And this is where the Black leadership had taken the city. And to me, I say a lot of things online. I'm provocative, sometimes abrasive or offensive or whatever, but it's also entertaining, right, to keep the conversation lively. But in real life, my dedication and commitment is purely to representing Black men and the Black community in the best light. So when I saw the situation in Detroit, I said, man, this is bad. We look really bad here. I mean, it got to the point after Kwame Kilpatrick that they felt like they didn't even need a Black mayor anymore. Imagine Black people got tired of Black politicians. Now that's bad, man. That's real bad. I'm not saying that the mayor, Mike Duggan, is not a good mayor or anything of that nature. But if we can't provide for ourselves, if we can't manage our own community, if we make a mess of things when we're given the opportunity, then how can we hold it against anyone for not giving us a shot? So yeah, I decided Detroit was the front line of the fight. And that's when I planted my stakes in Detroit. Because I'm not from Detroit, I'm from New York City.
Okay. Wow, you said a lot of really interesting things there. I was really touched by the aspect of making adjustments because I'm going to be discreet, but I'm a Fed, and a lot of people are looking at what's happening, what's going to happen to them. So I've
Mhm.
been thinking about adjustments. What would I do if? Where would I go if? Something I'm thinking a lot about that. So that touched me. But I don't know if I told you, but I have Michigan roots. I'm a Michigan alum, so I
I
was
see
there.
the
I was
I see the
there.
background.
Yep,
Look.
there you go Blue. So I was there for the transition from Dennis Archer
Mhm.
to Kwame, and then I think the whole fallout happened after I graduated. But I heard the legend of Coleman Young
Yeah.
and Senior.
Yes.
And I have spent my fair share of time in Detroit, so I saw, maybe not understanding everything that I was seeing, but I saw what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that over the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a lot of questioning about um, cities run by Black mayors and the one particular side of the political aisle, and why those cities seem to ultimately exhibit the same characteristics. So I thought it was interesting that you said that about
I,
Kwame.
I have a theory about that.
Okay.
Um, that wasn't the case 40, 50 years ago with Harold Washington, Coleman Young, Maynard Jackson, Marion Barry. It wasn't the case, right? What has happened, in my opinion, is that activism has displaced governance, right? So what we have is a bunch of people who are really adept at being activists. And because they become popular as activists, they get elected, but they don't really know how to govern because it's a skill. To be a politician means you have to be able to connect the activists, the business sector, the voting population. You have to be able to deal with all of them. And what happened is, just like we concentrate in one area career wise, generally speaking, entertainment, so on and so forth, we concentrate in one area politically, activism. Look at the most known politicians right now. Look at Jasmine Crockett. Is that her name? Jasmine, the lady in,
Yes.
yeah, in Texas. Yeah, they're just outspoken, soundbite driven. And they latch on to every national topic when they come from small districts. Rather than bringing back deliverables to the people that vote for them, they choose to be on the nightly news. So there's a lost art of politicking, and it may not be exclusive to just black politicians. But of course, when we're at fault, oh, they're going to highlight that the most. I mean, they love to roll out the black guy who dropped the ball or the black woman. So, yeah, we have to take what we do seriously, whether it be politics, work, media, everything. You know, one thing I noticed as an employer, because in my mental health business, and by the way, I'm opening a mental health business in Detroit. Well, technically in Grosse Pointe, right? But it's on the line with Detroit. And one thing I learned about hiring people, and most of my employees are black, right? That we will rush to finish things that are important so we can do things that are not. And I believe it's an immaturity there. People just don't understand that, life isn't about having fun all the time. You have to have fun sometimes. I agree. But as an adult, there's time where you have to just say, okay, listen, I got to get down to work right now. And I don't think enough of us value that time or really understand the fruits of that labor. Somehow we think things are just going to be without that kind of effort. And culturally, there's a deficiency there. That's why I always say that there's no political solution for cultural deficiencies.
Okay. I'm going to read the super chat and then I have a question. Then I'm going to get back to my script here. But you are dropping gems. Yeah. The Glory says propagandist Joy Reid was fired. Great news. And so that leads me to this off script question. I mean, having your own platform, and I do agree when you're on someone else's platform, you have to abide by the rules. Do you think that the mainstream news, do you think they're engaged in mind control and shaping sentiment and shaping thought, particularly our people?
Absolutely. The media, sports and entertainment, in my opinion, it's all social engineering. There's currently 5 companies, 5, maybe 4 by now, because the number is constantly shrinking. Right?
Hey, Curtis, before we go on, there's a little bit of snow or feedback. I don't know if that's me. I don't think it's me.
Can you hear me now? Can you still hear it?
I can hear you, but there's something coming through. It just died down, but it's okay. I don't. In the audience, are you all hearing that?
What does it sound like to you, everyone?
It sounds like static. The audience, are you guys hearing it? Are you guys hearing that, or is it just me? Okay, Slick Rick is hearing that as well.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah. And it just stopped. Okay, but I hope that's something we can resolve. Slick Rick, thank you for.
Do you still hear it?
That's perfect.
It got better?
Yes, we're all good now.
Oh, that's outside. They're actually doing construction. Look.
Okay.
This mic is picking it up. Look.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you. So we were talking about the media and shaping public sentiment, and that's what we were talking about.
Oh, yeah, but I think it's all social engineering. I think there's 5, maybe less, maybe 4 by now companies that own 95% of the media that we see. They all have the same narrative. So it's really propaganda. And I know a lot of people are mad at Joy Reid. I saw someone say, yeah, she's gone. Joy is she's just a bootlicker, and they all are. They on the right or the left, that's all they are, because they can't speak their mind. If they say the wrong thing, they won't have a job, and they're all making pretty good money. I think Don Lemon was making like $10 million a year. Tucker Carlson was making over $20 million. So when you're getting paid like that, you're gonna say pretty much anything they want you to say, and that's what they do. What we have to do is not tune in. Her ratings were horrible, so she wasn't really reaching anyone. And if they wanted to waste their money paying someone to speak to an empty room, that's on them. I don't listen to Joy Reid. I know why she's there. When Trump was elected the first time, they got rid of Al Sharpton over there. They put him at 8 o'clock in the morning. These people are just, they're just noisemakers to give the semblance of some kind of grassroots voice. And because they don't really speak for the people, what they're doing. And I don't just want to single out the black ones. I think all of them, whether it be Morning Joe or whoever, they have their demographic that they reach. And it's like the old saying, if we want you to think, we'll give you a thought. And they are there to give you thoughts. You think the ideas you have are organically your own, but they're not. You've been programmed through TV, through music, through the news, whatever you tune into, even academia. You know what I mean? Like, it's very few people understand the difference between outside influences and organic critical thinking. Just because you read it in a book or see it on Google, it doesn't mean that you have to accept the same interpretation or even accept the validity of it, you know? So you got to challenge everything in this world. And really, I just focus on the things that's pertinent to my journey.
Okay. All right. If I recall correctly, you're from New York City.
Yes, I am.
From what you described, your background sounds like that of some of the rappers and the athletes and the entertainers. I mean, you mentioned guys who you seem to know personally. Like, I mean, you gave a lot of homage to Irv Gotti, who just passed. You mentioned Dame Dash, and you mentioned Jam Master Jay, and it. Well, did you know those guys very well? And also, what was your childhood? Was it like that on the streets of Brooklyn? And amongst rap battles and guys rolling dice, and was that your experience?
I grew up in Queens. I went to school in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
I used to commute, so I'm in both boroughs a lot. I was not, I did DJ when I was about 14 because it was a trend and it was just starting. But I quickly transitioned out of that. Back then in the 80s, right? Because I'm 60, and back in the 80s, the street guys influenced the rap guys. They tried to dress like the street guys, and adopt their swag. And now it's, in my opinion, it's the exact reverse. The entertainment guys are setting the tone for the streets, where to party, what to wear, where to eat, blah, 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 blah. So it's been like a 180. But I knew Run and DMC pretty good because we went to Catholic school together. We were in the same class from 2nd grade to 8th grade. Jay, I knew because he lived around the corner from me, but he went to public school, right? I wasn't as close with Jay as I was with Run and Rev Run in DMC. But I knew Jay. Irv was about 6 years younger than me, so I didn't really know Irv at all. But Irv knew of me. And later on in life, when he became, successful with music, we connected because we're all from the same neighborhood, right? But I don't think me and Irv and DMC and Running them moved in the same circles as I got older, right? But Irv came to me through a mutual acquaintance, and I helped him get his music on the radio because my sister had worked for Radio 1 with Kathy Hughes in D.C. So Irv had an artist called Mike Geronimo. This was before Murder Inc. and all that. So I helped him get Mike Geronimo on the radio. And then when he was with Def Jam, finally, because he always wanted to be there, Russell Simmons is from Hollis, right? He started Def Jam with Rick Rubin. So Irv finally got his chance to be up at Def Jam. And when he got Jay-Z to come over there, before he got Jay-Z to come over there, he was working with Jay-Z. When they had their P&D deal with Priority over with Brian Turner. It was a 75-25 deal. So they were responsible for everything, their marketing, everything. Having a record company is a little bit more complicated than having a label deal. The label deal is you get to say you're a record company, but you don't have to deal with all the intricacies of distribution and promotion and marketing and setting up shows and stuff. But as a record label, or a real record company, you have to do those things. So Irv contacted me, remembering what I did for him with Mike Geronimo, and he asked me if I could help him with Jay-Z. And I did. I met Jay-Z, Dame Dash, and another individual named Biggs. And I helped them get this stuff on the radio outside of New York. The first time anybody heard Jay on the radio outside of New York, it was because I delivered it to the radio stations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, did your with all the hats you wear and all the experiences you've had, was your family go to school, get your education, go to college type of family, or was it something else? Was the emphasis on skilled trades, or was there any emphasis at all?
Well, my family, the fact that we went to Catholic school let you know that they cared about education. But they cared about education, but there was no direction. See? And you have to have direction for kids, because as a young man, I didn't have any educational direction because nobody in my family had done anything professionally significant. My family was blue collar workers, and that doesn't make them bad people or less people, but they can't really direct you and guide you to be greater than them. And educationally, I was on that pathway. I excelled in school. The school I went to in Brooklyn was Brooklyn Tech. It's one of the crown jewels of the New York City public school system. You got to take a test to get in there. My diploma wasn't just a regular diploma. I took the chemistry regents, physics regents, algebra, you name it, man. I took so many regents exam. I got a state regents diploma on top of a high school diploma because I took all those classes, man. And but I did not have a plan where to go next because there was nobody. It's important. If you're a parent, right, and you may be just you got good morals, great work ethic, but you've reached this far in life and you want your kid to go this far. What you have to do is find somebody who could help take your kid to the next level, because you cannot teach your kid what you don't know. You can realize that, you lack in certain areas, and you can go out and find someone to help fill that void, to get your kid to the next level. And it goes back to what I was talking about earlier about maturity and cultural deficiencies and always wanting to have fun. Life is very serious. We start off as at a deficit as Black people, whether anyone wants to agree with that or not. You see, I'm not the downtrodden dude that's blaming racism because, I'm down on my luck. I'm actually doing respectable things. And for me, when I hear people talk about racism, they reduce it to things like driving while Black, stop and frisk. But the stain of racism, the psychological residue of racism is that, people have this perception of us that no matter what, that we always have to counter it before we do the first step. That's why I say we start at a deficit, because we're always at less than zero, because they think we're incompetent, whatever, not serious. And you always have to dispel these notions with people. They're afraid to give us money. They just are. On the live stream last week, I was saying, you go to anybody, you cannot have a Black organization from top to bottom, even if they have great qualifications. Because instinctively, subconsciously, nobody's going to trust it. They think we're going to do what? Get the money and go party and run to the car dealership. This is how people perceive us. And that perception creates a serious challenges for all of us, regardless of how educated we are or whatever we think. It's there. It's there. You know what I say? I say that, white privilege, it's getting the benefit of doubt, especially from Black people. Because white people don't give each other the benefit of doubt, right? But Black people will give anybody white the benefit of doubt all day. They'll assume because they're white that they know what they're talking about, that they know important people, that they could help, whatever, or they could get me in trouble. They get the benefit of doubt. But being Black means getting nothing but doubt, especially from Black people, and that makes it really, really hard. You'd be surprised. There are people, Black people, again, I tell anecdotes to drive my point home. My current clinical director in DC is a Black man, and he's about 36 years old. He's from New Orleans, good guy. But before he was my clinical director, he came in my office to thank me for a promotion that he got, because he was promoted to assistant clinical director, right? And he came in my office and he told me it felt so good to have Black bosses like me and my partner, and to see that, we had nice things and we weren't athletes, because that's all he saw. And it was the only way he thought that Black men could have those things, right? And the whole time he was talking, and while I was looking at him like, what is this Negro up to? Well, of course I didn't say Negro, but, and I felt bad the next day, because I was like, what if he was genuine? So I called him back I didn't dismiss him or anything, but he didn't know what I was thinking. And I explained to him, I said, when you said what you said to me, it caught me off guard. And it's because I've literally had hundreds of people work for me as contractors and W-2 workers. And 95% of them were Black. And not one ever said that to me. So it caught me off guard. Think about that. Not one. Not one. Because when I hear people talking about things like reparations, they're not really honest, right? Like, I don't care about reparations one way or the other, right? But you cannot think that is going to fix us, because the damage that is done to us is so deep, and we're dishonest about it, which is why it won't get fixed. We're pretending like it's not there. Oh man, the hatred, the self-hatred is incredible. It's incredible, man. And nobody wants to be honest about it at all. We are not happy for each other. My experience with Black folks that I hire, that they don't have to work for me. My highest salary is $118,000 a year. And my lowest salary is $42,000 a year. And man, the positions that I'm putting people who look like me in, and I'm not saying I want this, man, but they should do nothing but love me, man. Because nobody else is going to get them, nobody else that look like me. Do you know 96% of all Black-owned businesses are sole proprietorships? we're not even in a position to hire employees, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they talk about Black excellence and la la la, but I don't know. I haven't seen it. But anyway, that young man is outstanding to me. He caught me by surprise and he gave me hope. Because it took about 12 years for somebody to express to me what he did. And all I've done since I set up business was help people who look like me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, once again, you said a lot there. The piece about your parents not being able to teach what they don't know. That's something I've said quite often. And yeah, I think for a lot of Gen Xers, the blueprint was go to college and then, you know, everything else you'll figure out, or things will kind of come together, whether it's with your career, whether it's with your personal life. But I think a lot of us have found something different. Okay. Well, let's move on. So speaking of my childhood, Curtis, you know, like a lot of young Black men, I was raised for the most part by my mother. My parents split when I was 3, so they were married. But one of the things, I have to admit this, one of the things that when I first discovered you on then Twitter was your unapologetic masculinity, you know, and just voicing your opinion and just being unapologetic for that. Is that your personality? Was your father like that? Like where does that come from? Yeah, because we're taught today to kind of, you know, say, whisper things and apologize for things, and you get shamed for saying certain things. Go ahead.
You know where that comes. First of all, I did not see my father from age 5 to 20. I was raised by my stepfather and my mom. She remarried, and I did not have a good relationship with my stepfather, you know, but I think that's just who I came into the world being, you know. I didn't get that from my stepfather because honestly, that wasn't his personality, you know. I think just being out in the streets, I developed that. Yeah, I say what's on my mind. You know, it does help that I'm 6'4", 250 pounds too. You know what I mean? That helps a lot. Shoot, that's just how it is, man.
Okay. Now you did. I mean, because one of the questions today, I mean, we did talk about what's happening with boys and men, black boys and men, but I think something that's got lost is where manhood comes from, how you develop those things that, well, in a romantic sense, that the women want, those strength qualities, those leadership qualities. Where do those come from? That toughness. But
Testosterone.
Testosterone. Okay.
Yes, and testosterone gives you aggression. You know, and we're in a society that has been feminized, so we make aggression. And I'm not saying aggression without direction, right? But a man has to have some aggression because that's what separates him from a woman. Even women who want to transition and be a trans male or whatever, they have to get testosterone shots. It's very important to masculinity on a hormonal level, you know. And I think a lot of times we're in a society where women, for their own reasons, try to diminish that quality in men because that would be an area that they can't compete in. And I think a lot of men get put in the trick bag and they suppress their aggression because it's considered not sophisticated or any of that stuff, but the truth of the matter is, right? And when I say aggression, I don't mean being loud and obnoxious. I'm talking about when the time comes, there's no hesitancy for you to step up and deal with whatever the situation is. And I think that's been kind of like taken out of a lot of men. And of course, if they don't have the balance of being raised by a man and a woman, right? What is a mother's job? To nurture? A mother doesn't want her child to lose. She doesn't want her son to get hurt. She's going to suppress anything that he has that could put him in harm's way because she doesn't want to experience the loss, right? And in the process, as well-meaning and well-intentioned as that may be, it's kind of like arresting his development as a man. And that's why a father has to be there to be like, no, let him deal with that, babe. You know what I mean? Because often when sons are raised by single mothers, he's not just her son. He takes the place that her husband, his father, a love interest should take. She has an emotional dependence on him because she doesn't have anyone to make that connection with in a healthy way. And the sons are shaped by that as well. I make fun of a lot of stuff, but there's basis to it. Like, I tease people on social media and I'll say, you seem like one of those guys that your mom is your best friend. You see, there's a subtle implication there. You know what I mean? Like, because if your mom is your best friend, it means she's had too much influence on you. Listen, I love my mom. My mom lives in a house right now that I paid for and everything. I make sure my mom has everything she needs. But I'm not her phone buddy though. We're not going to talk about nothing all day, every day, because that's not, she talks to my wife. That's great. They two females, they can talk, but I'm like, look, what's going on? What do you need? All right. I make sure that everybody around me has what they need. To me, that's the patriarchy that has been vilified. They vilified the patriarchy. They don't even want men to be men because the women wanted to have an unnatural place, occupying an unnatural space. And it has done a job on a lot of us, man. When we talk about immigrant communities and you look at how they thrive, the one thing they all have in common, those immigrants that come to America and do well, is what? Regardless of religion, regardless of race, ethnicity, what they all have is a strong patriarchy. The patriarch is there, and it delivers results. There was even a study that most of the young men in prison were raised by single mothers, something in the vicinity of 70%. And they showed that young men raised by a mother and father and young men raised by a father alone had the same rate of incarceration, which was much lower than the ones raised by a single mother. So the role and importance of the masculine influence and energy is real. And it's not just saying that, they need to know their father. The father has to know what his role is and not let society trick him out of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, as a son, you also do feel when your mother doesn't have somebody, you also do feel that need to be there and to protect and to, send as much money as you can and to fill those things in. So that's real.
Mm-hmm. I do those things, but the emotional part, right? I can't become her emotional crutch. I love you as my mother, but I'm your son. I'm not your man. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't lean on me for that. You know, I already got my wife leaning on me for that. And I'm not saying that my mom does that. I'm just using that as an example. You know what I mean? Yeah. My mom knows me pretty good. I've been like this since I was a kid. Yeah. I'm about results. I'm not really about any of that emotional, mushy stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I take care of business. Yeah, I make sure everybody's good. I'm happy to see people, and that's that. But I'm
Yeah.
gonna handle my business because at the end of the day, Anwar, you could be one of those very emotionally supportive guys, but as soon as everything fall down and they need some money, and you ain't got none, ain't nobody thinking about you and your emotional support, man. Y'all know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so a while ago on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, you did share some history or some discussion about how you raised your son and your daughter. And I wanted to ask you, it sounded like you were a little, I don't want to say harder on your son, but in this era of the genders being the same, did you parent them a little bit differently, your son and your daughter?
I can't take any credit for my daughter. Her mom, both of my kids, they have different parents.
Okay.
My daughter's mom, she did a great job with my daughter, and I supported and played my role in that capacity. But my son, I had full custody of him, and I raised him. And man, I don't buy my son birthday presents. I don't coddle him or anything, but I give him such advice, such great advice, and I give him direction because it's worth more than the gifts, right? And he's doing great for himself. My daughter, she's doing great too. She's an attorney. She works with her. My son, he's a he's an entrepreneur. He's done so many different things. He's selling cars. He's at the auctions. He's over in Portland buying houses. He got a house right now in Portland. He's about to flip it. He renovated it. He's all over making money doing what he's doing. And
Hey,
you check in with him.
hey, Curtis, I don't know what you did before, but the snow is back just a little bit.
You turn that down.
Okay, so now it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah,
How do I sound though? Am I lower?
just a little bit.
Is that good? Does that work?
Guys, can you hear Curtis pretty good? I mean, your volume's not as high as you were before, but the static's
I can speak louder.
okay. We'll see if you can speak louder.
Okay. I'm gonna work with you. I don't know what's going on here with this, but yeah. So where was I? Yeah, my son. He's doing his thing. He doesn't ask me for anything. Uh, he graduated from school from University of Georgia State. He graduated from Georgia State. He has no student loans. He has no debt. His credit score is in the 800s, and he's handling his business. Man. He does a lot of different things, and every move he makes, he called me and run it by me, and he thanked me for putting him on that path. Yeah, because I spent enough time with him. I didn't want him to be a dependent man, a man who couldn't figure things out for himself. And the way you get your son to do that is you start coaching him early. You can't keep figuring things out for your young man. You just cannot. You know, because life is merciless when it comes to men, especially black men. I don't know what the statistics are right now. When I was first getting into mental health, 83% of all suicides were white men. So it's not just life is rough on black men, it's rough on everybody. It's just that black people are more vocal about our pain. A lot of other people, they suffer in silence. This life is competitive, and there's no room for error. You know, and as a man, especially when you start having children, families, you don't want that when you fail, they fail too. It's not just you, it's everybody else. When you go down, they go down with you. So that's even more pressure. And when you raise with a son, it is your job to prepare him for that possibility, to carry that weight. It's always good if his wife or can help out or whatever, but he has to be able to do it on his own if he has to.
Okay.
You got to prepare him for that.
Hey Curtis, I'm gonna propose the leave in and come back trick. Can we try that really quickly?
Oh sure, why not?
Yeah, so just leave and come back.
You want me to step out and step back in?
Yeah, so just close the link out and just hit it again.
Asia set this thing up. I'm gonna go back. Where is it at?
You should see leave stream or something.
I'm looking. I am not the most tech savvy, but we're gonna get it. Let me hit the back button. Okay, leave studio.
Okay. Technology, guys. Technology. Technology. Okay, we're just waiting for Curtis to come back. Hopefully things are crisp and clean. Okay, Curtis is back. Go ahead, speak.
How's it sounding now?
Nice and clear.
Okay, we solved it.
all right. This technology, man. All right.
Yeah.
So just wrapping up what you're saying about your son, you gotta prepare your sons to take the weight and
they
to
gotta hold that weight, man. Yeah. I'm gonna give you an example, right? So my son, he was in Atlanta and he had $100,000 line of credit with the auction to buy cars from the auction. So the auction was extending him credit to buy cars from the auction. So he told me that and he was happy. And I said, okay, now what you need to do is go to your bank and let them know that the auction has given you $100,000 line of credit to see what they can give you. Based on the auction giving him $100,000, he was able to get, I think, $50,000 from the bank. But the money from the auction he could only spend on cars with the auction, but the money from the bank he could spend elsewhere doing other things. And he did that. It's like when he first went to college, they offered him credit cards. And my mom and his mom told him not to get it. And he asked me, what do I think? And I told him, I said, man, what are you listening to them for? They don't have any discipline when it comes to money. You get that credit card, you use it, and you pay it off with cash. Use it instead of cash and build your credit. So that's why he shows me his credit score, because that was the genesis of him having good credit. Because when every move he makes, he checks in with me. And he does what I tell him to do. And he loves the results. So he's always checking in with me. And to me, that's what fathers are for, right? Not so much, and I don't just mean in that sense, but fathers are to provide direction and guidance to these young men, and I'm most proud of that he's self-sufficient, doesn't need anything from anyone. He hasn't worked he hasn't worked a regular job in like maybe 6 years. When he first went to school, I told him to get a job as doing valet. Because when I would travel, I would see these young guys doing valet, making money, and you're touching cash every day. And then I got him an internship at Turner Sports. So he was working at Turner Sports and doing valet and maintaining a 3.0 because that's what you had to have a Hope Scholarship. That's how he graduated with no student loans. And even before he graduated, I told him to borrow $5,000 student loans, but don't use it. Just put it in the bank and let it sit and pay it back after he graduated. Let it sit there for a while. See, this is what parents are supposed to be doing, right? And the reason why I know it is because it's what I didn't have, Anwar. That's no knock on my parents, right? Because we all do the best we can. But the whole purpose of us having these kind of conversations and dialogue is so that we can share knowledge and experiences, right? Not really to flex on anybody like, yeah, I got this and I'm doing that. No, I want anybody who's on this live, they may have a child right now that's in 8th grade or something. I'm putting things in their head because this is how it has to be done, man. Each one teach one. Certain things I missed out in my own life, I made sure that my kids didn't miss out on.
Okay. So just really briefly, since you mentioned your wife, I was wondering this. Do you all have, I described you as, unapologetic and masculine. Do you all have complementary personalities, or is she an alpha as well? Or what would you say about that?
I think, for me, I realized that everyone, and I've never studied psychology, but I study humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone needs to have a space where they feel empowered, and you cannot deprive anybody of that. So me using my understanding of human nature, I've done everything as a man as far as leadership, but I also allowed my wife to take the lead in certain areas of the household and the relationship to satisfy her need to not feel subjugated in every aspect of her life, and we all have to understand that no matter who you're dealing with, they have to experience some degree of power. It doesn't mean you have to give them power over you, but just understand that you don't need to have power over everything. Let them have a little something too. And I think that works out great for me and my wife.
Okay. I'm going to take it back to social media for a second, Curtis. I'm going to admit, man, I've because I work for somebody, and I learned the hard way that people are looking at your social media.
Yeah.
And even when you're dealing with somebody on a romantic level, if the things you're saying or putting up conflicts with their world, that can cause drama. And there have been times when I've retweeted some of your stuff, and I said, "Oh, I better not. Let me untweet that because it's gonna come back and get me." The reason you're able to voice your opinions and your positions is that because you're unbeholden to anybody else. You don't work for anybody else. You don't. No one's checking you and saying, "Hey, I saw that doesn't reflect well on my brand or our company."
To a degree, yes, but
Okay.
ultimately, everyone has to answer to someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I have way more latitude than an employee. So there's certain things, for instance, I'm in liberal cities, DC, Detroit. There are things that I say that would, take certain people aback in positions of power that may have influence on my business, right? But how I mitigate that is that at the end of the day, there's more to me than what I say. You may not like some things I say, but when you start understanding the things that I do, you just start turning a deaf ear to whatever you don't like. You know what I mean? Now, if I was somebody who's just talking provocatively all the time and doing nothing, oh man, I'm sure somebody would have came for me already. But in the grand scheme of things, man, I think I contribute a lot. That the positives with me are probably far, well, not probably they are, but even to someone who doesn't like me, they even have to admit that the positives are outnumber the bad, So and that's that. And also, again, I'll give you another story. So I met with the deputy mayor of Detroit. He was the deputy mayor. He's now the chief of police. His name is Todd Bedison, right? When he was the deputy mayor, I met with him about a development project to create senior housing. Now, most people don't, I'm assuming most people on this chat don't know the ins and outs of the development game. Maybe someone does, I don't know. I know I didn't until this endeavor. But senior living is subsidized housing, and it cuts into the profit because you can't put the units up for market share, market rate, right? So most developers don't really want to do senior housing, right? There has to be special concessions and all of that. So I embarked on this journey, and I had this 3D rendering made, identified some land, got concessions on the land. Now we're looking for a new location. But when I showed it to Todd Bedison, Deputy Mayor Todd Bedison, he asked me, he said, man, what made you do this? Because there's a whole bunch of developers that want to build condos and this and that and the other. And everybody got these, these get rich quick ideas like, I'm going to put up this development and I'm going to make all this money. And here I came with an idea that wasn't going to make the developer a lot of money, something they don't see very often. And I told him, I said, Eric Adams in New York said, the people who vote are on Social Security, not social media. And that man stopped in his tracks when I said that. And he told me, he said, that is wise counsel. And he understood the importance of the senior living development because it's the seniors who vote. The last election in Detroit, only 12% voter turnout, and most of them were seniors. And you want to do something for them. You understand what I'm saying? Because, see, everybody thinks, I'm not going to say everybody, right? A lot of people are really out for instant gratification, so they have these short-term objectives. But I'm patient and I play the long game. If I get the development done for the senior living, now I'm in the game as a developer, and I helped a politician get reelected, which means there will be more development deals for me. You understand what I'm saying? And that's how it works, man. But again, you have to have an understanding of leverage and strategy. Everything is not like transactional. As soon as you do something, you get paid. And that's why I have to maintain so many different endeavors, because I started this campaign to do the senior living development in 2022. And it's coming up on 3 years. It takes a lot of time to get all the things done. And that's why most developers have so many projects in the pipeline at one time. But I don't have a lot of development projects. I got one, and I'm walking that down. But I got a bunch of other things that I'm doing simultaneously, because that's what it takes to be great on multiple levels. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the next question involves your one of the schools, one of your education stops. It was interesting that you said that you attended Hampton, and I think also tweeted about this book, Our Kind of People. I have my copy. What was your Hampton experience like? And was it like this? Were you there with a bunch of bougie, upper class black kids? Because that's the stereotype of Hampton, is that it's the Our Kind of People crowd.
I was, but I didn't know it at the time. I didn't understand it. And, it's kind of like I have a strange relationship with that demographic, because I've come to realize that they are who they are. They're very useful because they get into positions. Excuse me. Those are the children of the Black elite. I went to Hampton only to stay out of prison. I went to Hampton because I was convicted at trial in New York City, and pending appeal, I appealed the conviction and overturned it, by the way. The judge allowed me to stay out on bail because I would be in school in Virginia. I applied to Hampton only because I knew I was going to trial in the spring of 1986. Wow. And it was just a strategy in case I lost, to try to stay out of prison. And it ended up working because I had the foresight, right? I first discovered Hampton in 1984. And I was down in Virginia, up to no good. And I asked, where the girls at? Now, I remember 1984, I'm 19, 20 years old. So I'm like, where the girls at? Somebody said Hampton Institute. I think it was Hampton Institute at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went over there, and I had an epiphany. I'm on the campus, and I'm not even thinking about girls no more. I'm just like, this is where I belong. And I never forgot that feeling. So when I was on trial, I doubled back on that and applied to Hampton and got accepted. Because, of course, my SAT score was high enough because I went to Brooklyn Tech, right? So, and I paid for my own schooling, and I went down there. And my business partner right now in D.C. is a guy that I met at Hampton University. And that business is the best thing I've ever done. And my friendship with him is I was his best man when he got married. And we stayed in touch after Hampton. And we come from very different backgrounds. He's a Kappa, by the way. And I talk about the boule and the Greek. I talk about it with him. You know what I mean? Because it's like when I speak of groups, I understand that nothing is 100%. There are people who are in groups who might not even be aware of the purpose of the group. There are people who call themselves Black Greeks that don't even understand why they have Greek letters. They don't even, they don't even know that the boule comes from the council that advised the king, the committee of 300s, and the archons, and all the. They didn't study that. They just the step shows and it's party, and you can't hold that against people who don't really know it. And it's like any organization, and whether it be the Freemasons or the boule or whatever, the real purpose is only known by the elite within the group, right? At the higher levels and so on and so forth. Yeah. But the problem with them that I find is that ideologically they all fall in line with the edicts that come down from the top. But do they maliciously plan to undermine Black people and all that? I think a very small percentage of them do. Most are just trying to have fun and do what they think is right.
Okay.
And that's definitely about that book that you've held up, Our Kind of People. Yeah. Yeah, that book right there. I read it and I get it. When I read it, it helped me understand. I'm not making excuses for any of them, right? Some of them know exactly what they're doing. A lot of them don't, though.
Okay. Well, I thought that was a very educational book because I don't come from those families, and I went to an HBCU as well. And then when I moved here, I did start to see that there were different divisions within the race. There were different groups, different subgroups, and if you weren't a part of certain groups, then
Yeah.
you if you weren't part of if you weren't a Greek, then you weren't allowed access to certain things, and if you didn't come from uh, a certain family or a certain
Correct.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, there are all these different. You assume because in my family, I think we all talked about black people as being the same, and this, white people, black people, white people, black people. But there are so many different subgroups within us that,
Hmm.
yeah, I thought that's what spoke to me about that book. Curtis, give me 1 second. I'm gonna grab something and I'll be right back.
Sure. Go ahead, man.
Okay, my next question, it involves mental health. Uh,
Hmm.
and you told me interestingly that you're involved in that arena. I'm reading this book right now, The Anxious Generation by Dr. Jonathan Haidt.
Hmm.
How did you get into mental health, and what would you say about the current state of mental health in this country right now? Well,
I'm
how
gonna
did you
tell
get
you
involved, first of all?
truthfully. A young man who I hadn't seen in 15 years or so saw me in Atlanta, Georgia, and he had become an ordained minister and licensed social worker. And he was trying to convince me to start a mental health business with him in Atlanta. But I wasn't interested. I didn't know anything about mental health. I had my plans, my eyes set on Los Angeles. I went out to LA in 2009. It didn't work out. When I came back, I worked for him in the company I was supposed to start with him. When the auditors came, they singled out my notes and said it was the best notes in the company because I do have a gift with writing. And um, once I learned the business, which was quick, like in 2, 3 months, I decided I wanted to start my own business, but I didn't want to do it in Georgia out of respect for him because I didn't want to be a competitor to him. I was going to do it in New York, but my business partner, the Kappa, he had called me in January of 2010 and asked me what I was doing. And I told him, and I told him I had access to one of the deputy mayors in New York. And he mentioned that he knew the city administrator in DC, Neil Albert. And just like that, and I decided not to go to New York and I came to DC. And just from that phone call, because I understood that my network in New York is more a street network. They don't really know business. Although one of those guys got me access to the deputy mayor in New York, right? But they weren't going to be able to help me logistically with the business. And I knew coming to DC from my business partner that I have now and other people in this area that they represented the professional class of blacks. And it would be more useful and easier for me to navigate things here. And I think I was right. If I got to New York, it would have been tough. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been done, but it would have been tough, right? Because it would have just been basically me, and I would have to hire and recruit a lot of people who I didn't know have relationships with to perform professionally. When I came to DC, there was already a network in place that a new business could utilize, and that was through my friend from Hampton and current business partner who's a Kappa. Yeah, I tapped into a black professional network in DC that I wouldn't have had in New York. So I came to DC and we started it. I came in with one suitcase.
Wow.
And yeah, I came with one suitcase. I had shipped a box with some equipment and stuff, but I moved in, I rented furniture from Court Furniture, and I had an efficiency apartment, and I just went to work. And I was 46 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So the networking matters.
Les Brown said your network is your net worth, and you got to, and also, I'm not trying to take too much credit, right? Because what I do is, a lot of what I do is intuitive, man, and instinctive. I think a lot of people need guarantees and what have you. But for whatever reason, in the course of my life, I've always kind of known what I needed to do. And, call it grace, favor, whatever. It worked out for me. And I am grateful for that.
Okay. I'm going to read the super chat from Jide. Jide, thank you for the $5 super chat. He says, thanks for this conversation, gentlemen. Very informative and powerful. I can relate to Curtis as one who now lives in Atlanta and experienced Detroit. Okay. What, I think I had a question about this as well. Non-Swirl Zone asked, what type of mental health services do you provide? I guess another way to ask that would be what kinds of things are you seeing? What kinds of things did you all see the need to address and treat?
We have an outpatient mental health facility. We provide 3 levels of service. We have medication management. For that, we have the nurse practitioners and psychiatrists. And we have therapy, and then we have our casework. Those are the 3 levels right there. We also have a substance use disorder program. That's actually what I'm starting in Detroit with, substance use disorder. I'm trying to get credentialed with TRICARE and Humana right now for the veterans, because there's a big substance use disorder problem with the veterans. Yeah. But that's what I do. I provide therapy, and I'm not a therapist or anything. I hire these people. I have doctors, nurse practitioners who can write the scripts, and the doctors would supervise their work and sign off on it. That's to save money. That's a business model there. And then you got the caseworkers. My caseworkers currently make about $34 an hour. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this from a high level as the CEO. Are you seeing anything that people are struggling with, that Black people are struggling with? Is it some sort of trauma? Is it some sort of sexual abuse at home, unresolved issues with parents, technology? Is there anything folks are struggling with in particular?
Well, we've been in business now for 15 years. And in the early days, I was a lot closer to the action. Yeah. But for liability reasons, I started putting distance between me and the patients and even the staff, right?
Yeah.
But from what I recall, a lot of stuff, drug use, sexual abuse, but mostly drugs and sexual abuse. The drugs, right, cause them to be victimized or become victimizers. You know what I mean? It works both ways. And there's a lot of sickness, man. There's a correlation between high crime, poverty, and mental illness, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. There's a correlation there. There's another thing I do want to add, and this is important too. There's also that element that just want to use the system to get stuff. Some people will try to get prescribed narcotics that they can sell.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will feign a mental illness so they can get some kind of housing assistance. A lot of this stuff is prevalent. Now, this is not a scientific survey, but I think that I would say that we directly impact and help maybe about 15% of the people that come through the door. And that's only because that 15% really wants help and actively participate in their treatment plan. If they don't participate, especially with an outpatient facility, if they don't get involved, you could have the best therapists, the best doctors. They're going to come when they feel like it. You understand what I'm saying? They have to want it. And that's the part that we can't do anything about. And nobody, well, at least I don't want to feel like I'm in business just for money. You want to see that you've impacted people and you helped someone. So it's always good when I see the people who give us the updates that, yeah, I'm doing good, or I'm staying clean, or I found a job, thank you so much. That makes me feel good because it means that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. I don't want to see somebody who's getting services for 15 years. The goal is to help them get better, you know what I mean? Even if they do still need to see the doc for meds, their service level should be winding down, not maintaining or increasing. I mean, from a business model, it's great that it's increasing, but from a morality level, ethical level, no, I'm not happy to see that at all.
Okay. So we're on the back end now, Curtis. But I have to throw this one in there. And this leads to another question. You still go to that barbershop?
Which one? On Georgia Avenue?
I don't know, but I'm thinking about the two videos you posted. The one was with the chunky dude who did the checkmate. And then there was the other guy you told who voted for Trump. Yeah. And he looked at you like he was going on about the nuclear codes. And when you told him that, you started laughing. And he looked at you and said, brother, of all the jokes you could have made, you could have told a better joke than that. You could have told any other joke besides that joke. But he was, go ahead.
Look, man, that barbershop closed, but I still see that same barber. He's in a different location around the corner. I remember those videos. Yeah.
Okay. Well, when that one started with the guy who you shocked, he was going on when you started the video. He was going on about the nuclear codes. Do you think most Black people know what's really going on with politics? Do you think that they're just hearing things from Joy-Ann Reid and Don Lemon and Al Sharpton, and they're kind of off to the races?
I'm not going to just put it on Black people. I think most people across the board don't really know what's going on. Okay. They have their trusted sources of information. Yeah. Whether it be Joy Reid or Hannity Cohn, whatever his name is. Hannity. Hannity, or everyone has their go-to sources that they trust, and they regurgitate those narratives and talking points. It's bizarre. I listen to a lot of right-wing radio, not because I agree with everything they say, but they do have a lot of different information. Whereas when you listen to the liberal media, you already know what it's going to be. It's predictable. I don't have to tune in to MSNBC to know what they're going to talk about, But every now and then the right will throw in something. And then what I'll do is I'll go look it up on my own and see both sides. That's why when I do my live, I talk about anything and everything on and on and on, because I'm a sponge for information and knowledge, man. Nobody's programming me, but I will disseminate information as I get it, and let the listener or viewer do with it what they will. I'm not here to think for people or tell people how they should feel. I'm just here trying to expand knowledge base. That's all. And everyone can make the decision for themselves what they're going to do.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean this to single our people out, but since that was a black barber shop.
Yeah, it was. No, you're right.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
the
want
one gentleman reacted, and then the checkmate guy, it seemed like when he came in and he was voicing his opinions, I don't know if he didn't read the room, but they kind of came for him as well.
Look, I'm very careful because, if you criticize black folks, sometimes you just become a bad guy all the time. And I don't have it out for black folks. I love black folks. You know what I mean? Like, everything I do helps black folks, whether it's the services I provide through the mental health, whether it's the STEM program in Detroit, whether it's the people I employ. It's primarily for black people, and I don't exclude anybody. Let's be clear on that, right? But you can't tell somebody that they don't like black people because they call black people out when everything they do is for black people and with black people. Mm-hmm. People are sensitive, man. They don't want to hear the truth. They want to hear beautiful lies. And whether you agree with me or not, just based on the work that I do, I'm entitled to have an opinion because I'm running into certain things that a lot of people don't. For example, with the STEM program, we're buying laptops. Everybody wants a free laptop, but then they get the free laptop and don't want to show up for the sessions. We talked to one of the parents, and the parent says, I don't know, I can't make them do it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you can't make them do it, but as a responsible parent, you say, listen, if you're not going to participate, we're going to have to give these people their laptop back. You see, that's what a parent does, right? Because we're dealing with, but, man, you know what works in our public school system? Get a celebrity and give away free stuff. We are trained like that from young. And the politicians only reinforce it because frivolous, superficial nonsense is all it takes to get our support. Now, what I'm doing with the STEM program, you could say it's indicative or representative of us as a collective, generally speaking. The STEM program means they have to work. Nobody wants to work, man. I'm talking to the damn principal. We want to build a STEM lab in the school. The principal's not interested in it because the STEM program is going to cause the GPA to drop. And that's all she's interested in. See, the average person don't get this perspective because they don't do a damn thing but voice their opinion. And I don't like him, I like her, oh, Beyonce. No, I'm out here doing the work. And I see how hard and how far down we are as a community. That's why I said there's no political solutions for cultural deficiencies. I see it time and time again. There's a school in Southwest Detroit called Western. There's a Latino population in Southwest Detroit that go to Western. Guess where our best attendance is? At Western.
At Western.
That's right. So I don't want to hear all this nonsense from people who don't work and they say we and they really mean me. Now I'm out here doing the work and I'm seeing the challenges. And boy, when I tell you it's looking bad, we set up a foundation in a majority black city, and the people who take most advantage of it aren't even black. And I'll go somewhere else too, since I'm on it, because I hold a lot of stuff in. But when I say certain things, it's coming from a place, right? Do you know who most of the teachers are that's working with the kids? They're white. Most of the teachers who feel committed to helping the kids with STEM after school, and we're paying the teachers. We're paying them $35 an hour, right? But they're not doing it for the money, though. They're not even black. When we go to these schools in black neighborhoods that's predominantly black, in order to get a foothold in there to do STEM, we have to identify the white teachers that, that want to save the poor Negroes and work with them. And then when it comes to the students now, the Mexican students in Southwest are the ones that's showing up, taking advantage of everything we got. And I'm glad that they're doing it. I just wish the black ones would do the same.
Okay. There are a number of directions we can go in with that. Okay. We'll yeah. I think we'll let that marinate with people on its own. So you've always had a gift for writing. You write print content on ScoonTV. You also have your Tuesday podcast, which I've listened in on a couple of times. You were here on YouTube for a little while, and you interviewed guys like King Randall, and I also looked up at one point, in as much detail as you want, you were teamed up with Jason for a little while. Yeah. And then I looked up, and you guys were, was there just a creative difference there, or?
No. I'll tell you. So Whitlock reached out to me. Whitlock, like a lot of people, they tap in, excuse me, and they get content.
Curtis, before you tell the story, it must be starting every so often. Yeah.
You want me to leave and come back?
Yeah, and then by the
time
we finish up,
real quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Better.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
You don't sound too sure, man.
Actually, it's still.
Let me leave and give it a second and come back in.
All right. All right. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Go ahead.
Is that better?
Yeah, it sounds like you turned out a little bit, though.
Okay. Maybe I'll turn it back up. All right. How's that? Hello. Testing. 1, 2.
Yeah, go ahead and speak.
Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. testing.
So are you adjusting something there? Because it just
Yeah, I did. Is it clear?
is that your volume or is that something else?
Did it work? How's it sound now? Testing.
Okay, now it's gone.
Okay.
Okay, now it's gone.
It's gone now?
Now that's perfect.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, yeah, let's finish. Let's head towards the finish line. So Jason, what? Yeah, I looked up on X, and you guys were really, it's like, what happened?
Jason, like a lot of people in media, they stay on my timeline for content. Jason did take the next step and reached out to me. And he would bounce things off of me. I started podcasting because Jason suggested it. But he had a plan. He wanted to podcast with me because he used the podcast that he and I did as a demo for Blaze. And he was telling me, man, I could just put some coins in your pocket. But I was doing it for him because he was out of a job. He had left Outkick over some kind of dispute. He threw a hissy fit. It was like a diva. He had 12-13% of the company. Travis, Clay Travis gave his boy 10% for $500,000, and the boy never came up with the $500,000. And Jason, he didn't like that. But Jason has to understand that you may be a conservative and right-leaning or whatever, but you're still black. And Clay and Sam, they got a lot of history. And they were making a lot of money. And on top of that, on top of Sam not giving up the $500,000 for the 10%, the company was paying Sam $40,000 a month for marketing. So Jason was watching all of this. Me personally, I wouldn't have expected anything less from them. They're not your friends. They're using you to build their platform, but they didn't charge you anything. I would have told Clay, if he doesn't have to pay $500,000 for his 10%, I'd like to buy 10% for $500,000 and add it to my 13%. If you're going to give your boy 10, I'm going to put you in the spot. I'm willing to pay for my 10 and have 23, right? And that would have worked out one way or the other. Either Sam would have gave up his money, or Jason would have had 23%, which I'm sure is more than they would have wanted to give him. Anyway, they sold the company for $50 million, and Jason, he missed out. He missed out on his money because he walked away before they sold it. He helped them build it up, and there it is. That's the story with him. He got with Blaze, and he wanted me to do 4 days a week with him, and I said, this sounds like a job, Jason. I don't need a job. I never told you I needed a job. I need to be free to do what I want when I want to do it. I mean, more so than money and wealth and homes, and you do need some money to do what I'm about to say. I like to own my time, because essentially what work is you're trading your time for money, right? And the more time you trade for money is the less time you have for yourself. And I don't need vacations and Bali and all of that. I just need to wake up every day and be the master of my time, man. And I'm good with that. You know what I mean? I'm good with that. I'm a busy person. I don't lay around. Being a master of my time doesn't mean that I lay around binge watching, TV shows or anything like that. Being a master of my time means that I use my time primarily for my endeavors and my interests, not someone else's, right? Look, that's what I do. So yeah, we fell out over that. I just feel like Jason, he used to call me every day And as soon as he got with Blaze, because I wouldn't go with him, he stopped calling me. He stopped. I even used my platform to promote Fearless when he first started. He has never once reciprocated. On top of that, he's given money to Jalen Rose Foundation for his charter school in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that I had a foundation I was running, never gave $1. Like, yo, it's just certain things you watch. Like, and I'm not saying he owed me anything, but all of his moves showed me that he did not want me to be successful independent of him. And I hate to bring race into it, but it's kind of like how when you're the black dude that you start making a white company money, they don't want you to branch off and do your own thing, man. You know what I mean? Like, yo, it's almost like you belong to us. And I think Jason had that attitude with me because that's the attitude that he's been subjected to. He's running the same game on others that has been run on him. The problem is I didn't need none of that. I'm not a glory hound. I don't care about the spotlight. If you notice on my YouTube channel, I took down all my videos with Whitlock. I took them down. I don't really want to be associated, and it's not me being petty or anything like that. It's just that, yo, man, I don't need this stuff, dude. And I had to call his ass out. I did. And I explained who he was and what the nature of our relationship was. Because people would assume because he was on TV, he was doing something for me. No. He was like a fish out of water. When he left Fox, he was the nicest guy you could want to know. Then he got with Outkick. He wasn't bad at Outkick. But when he left Outkick, he was really nice. But when he got to Blaze, he turned into a different animal. And I'm my own man. I don't need nothing from nobody, man. Like, I don't have to be bothered. And I was keeping it to myself, but then I just was like, I watched him. I watched him crying, holding up the Bible. I've talked to Jason every day. He would call me. I never called him one time because he would call me to run things by me, to figure out what he's going to say on air, all of that, because I'm knowledgeable in a lot of ways. And he's limited in his exposure because these guys are in these gilded cages, right? When they get in these spaces, they don't have time to have a life. They are not masters of their own time. They're competing with everybody else. They can't fall behind because they'll lose their job. They are prisoners in a cage of their own making. So he would call me every day and I would help him out and give him perspective and all of that. But I saw him crying over the Bible. He never once spoke on the Bible. I saw him, the show looked like Amos and Andy, and he was like Kingfish. It was some real step and fetch it, doing all of this stuff over there at Blaze to entertain white folks. It's like he lost his way, man. And I don't have anything against white people, but I damn sure ain't going to be performing for them. I'm not their entertainment. I'm sorry. I'm not.
Okay. Unspoken One asked Jason, who for a little while Curtis was partnered up with Jason Whitlock, who has a lot of critics within the Black community. Jason does. He gets put into the Uncle Ruckus, Coon tap dancing guy.
I was making Black people like him because I'm centered, right? I criticize Black people, but I criticize whites too. I criticize Democrats, but I criticize Republicans too. You see, and that's the difference. Jason exclusively goes after Black people. He's an attack dog. And for me, I wasn't mad at him why I had to call him out. I had to call him out to distance myself from him because I didn't want to be associated with him. When he started going hard like that at Blaze, and people was like, yo, that's your boy Jason. No, that's not my boy. I don't even really know this guy, to be honest with you. I had to make it clear that he and I have nothing really in common. And that's why I took down those videos from my YouTube channel. Because, man, did he go into the sunken place when he got to Blaze. He wasn't that bad when he left Fox. He was cool, good guy. He wasn't that bad while he was working at Outkick. But I guess he got so desperate when he got to Blaze that he had to double down on that buck dancing. And I was ashamed that I even had done anything with him, that there was videos of he and I together on the internet. So I took them all down. He was that much of an embarrassment.
Okay. I have about 3 more.
Go ahead, man.
When you and I talked offline, we kind of talked about the current state of men and boys, black boys in particular, which in this education discrepancy there. So you've observed that yourself, that for whatever reason there are fewer black boys going into college and there are more black girls going into college, and it's creating this kind of schism and this thing that eventually is going to catch up to everybody.
Well, the Democrat Party is really a lot of feminine energy. There's a lot of vocal women, and even the men are feminine. The Chuck Schumers and the rest of them, they're not masculine men. So there's no balance there, right? And they prioritize women and girls. And we see the fruits of that. And I love women and girls, right? When I do the STEM in Detroit, I don't say it's just for boys. It's for kids. But at some point, they started paying attention to girls, and boys were getting left behind. There's a lot of foundations that you could get money from if you're targeting girls with it. And I don't think this is coincidental. I think this is deliberate, and it's meant to, again, more social engineering. So upwards of 70% of Howard's student body are now female. I think Hampton is 67. And that doesn't include all the non-black people that are going there. So black men, we are overrepresented in the prison system and underrepresented in the collegiate system. We're also overrepresented in the cemeteries, right? So, and the whole time you just see all these, these black women, black girl magic. They're going out to brunch, bottomless mimosas. They say now they go to the club and there's not even men in the clubs anymore. And they're not even wondering why. Because what they have that they're so proud of came at the expense of who? You see? And the brothers, they can't even articulate. They know something is wrong, but they don't know what. And I also believe that it's happening to white men. But the black men were the canary in the coal mine. They were the signal. Those angry white men that you see, it's not so much that they hate black people. Some of them may, but they hate the fact that they're being overlooked. Feminism used the Civil Rights Act to get a foothold. The majority of people who benefited from the Civil Rights Act of 1964 were white feminists. And now they're trying to remix it and do it with LGBTQ. They're trying to make, the Equality Act, bring them into it. And people say, well, there's black LGBTQ. Yes, there is, right? But why do we have to specify LGBTQ? Isn't it good enough just to be black and benefit from being black? Because being LGBTQ doesn't exclude you from the Civil Rights Act, right? It doesn't. But there's reason why they're pushing certain descriptors to the front, because it's like we're like a frog in boiling water. We don't even know what's cooking. We just know something smells good, but it's us, and that's what's going on. And before you know it, white men will be identifying as black women and qualifying for those jobs. Or black women are cooked. They don't even know. They don't even understand it. They don't even understand it. It's happening right now because they came in the door with those white feminists to provide cover. I mean, they didn't know that's what they were doing. They thought it was opportunity, right? The white women displaced the black men and some white men and used black women as cover so it wouldn't be obvious that it was really helping them. And when I talk about DEI, I'm not thinking about black women or black people, because it shows that 7% of DEI hires are black. So who are the other 93%? It's going to be your white women. The white man is mad at white women. That's what's really going on. And these boule Negroes are jumping up trying to make it like they're mad at us. No, they're not even thinking about us. Unless you lined up with them, because they want to put their women back in their place. And if you walked in the door with their women, that means you're going back in your place too. You understand what I'm saying? Now, for black men who've been excluded the whole time, it doesn't seem like a lot's going to change. Not for us. If you see who's panicking, it's the people who benefited. Now, what's my problem with some of this, right? Do you know in that nonprofit space, who's the last person I wanted to see when we were trying to get money for those kids in Detroit? A black woman. You would think that black women who get in positions, whether it be DEI or whether they earned it or whatever, would see black men and feel like, yeah, I got to help them brothers. They doing stuff for the community. Nah. The most help that you get as a black man ends up being from white women. Not white men, but white liberal women. They want to save blacks, help them out, whatever their motivation is. That's where you're going to get your help from. If they have knowledge of anything, access to anything, that's who's going to give it to you. Now, the sisters, on the other hand, I don't know if you remind them of their father or their ex-boyfriend, but it's not a lot of warm reception, even though you're doing something good. Yeah. That's why I say there's so many issues, internal issues that we have. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just telling people what it is. You know, knowing is half the battle, but moving accordingly is half the battle.
Okay. Let's see. What else? What do I have left here? Okay. Yeah, you've been outspoken about the Yas queens and
Yes, queens, yeah.
You on your channel, you talk a lot about geopolitics and what's happening outside of the United States.
It's very
Uh,
important.
uh, we have this new presidency, which is been trying to unfold its agenda like gangbusters. Uh, what like is there anything you see abroad that's concerning you, or because on X you've discussed us being on the brink of
We are.
conflicts.
We
Still
are.
okay.
You got three hot spots. Of course, Ukraine and Russia, and then you got Iran and Israel, and then Taiwan and China. I think Trump is serious about Greenland. He's squeezing Zelensky right now for 50% of the REM.
Hey Curtis,
Yeah,
let's do the magic trick one more time,
I'm coming
and
right
then
now.
all right. Maybe that's a sign that we should not be addressing those things here. I don't know. Thank you to those of you who have hung out with us here. All right, Curtis is back.
How was that?
Now it's gone.
Is it? You sure? You don't
Yeah,
sound-
you're clear now.
Okay, cool. Let's go. Yeah.
Okay, so just briefly, there's some things that may be brewing across
Yeah.
overseas.
Israel and Iran. Israel wants to build a greater Israel. This is why Trump wants to move the Palestinians out of Gaza. If he does that, there's going to be war. Egypt is already practicing. They're doing rehearsal exercises for war with Egypt. I mean, war with Israel. If Egypt and Iran attack Israel together, that's going to be major. It has the potential to go nuclear because Israel only has about 7 million people, right? They can't, Israel to me is not even a real military. They do have nuclear weapons, but as far as like ground forces and fighter pilots, and they don't have the number to deal with a military the size of Iran's or Egypt's, much less the two of them. So that means war for the U.S. Trump is shaking down Zelensky because he wants 50% of his rare earth minerals, REM. Those minerals are needed for our military capability, modern technology, the robots, the drones, the missiles, all of the high-tech stuff that I may not even know about, the computer chips. Those are made with rare earth minerals. Ukraine is sitting on an estimated 16 trillion in deposits. Trump wants half of it for the 300 billion he says we gave Ukraine. I think as far as America goes, Trump is doing the right thing. Zelensky says no, that's too much, but he doesn't really have a choice because he can't fight Russia without U.S. assurances and security. The United States and Russia started negotiations in Riyadh about the Russia-Ukraine war, and Zelensky was upset that he wasn't invited. Well, we don't need you because really you're just a proxy, and we're going to make the decisions and you have to abide by it. So it's very obvious that this war is really between Russia and America, and Ukraine has been a proxy. It has the potential of expanding and engulfing the entire of Europe. The first time that something like that will have happened since World War II. And then you got Taiwan over there with China. China is currently building the largest military command center in the world, 1,500 acres, deep underground bases. It's about 20 miles outside of Beijing. and it's 10 times the size of the Pentagon. They're not doing this because they're preparing for peace. So there's going to be some trade-offs involved. It could mean war, or it could mean some major concessions. Maybe, you know, Trump may let the Russians take certain territories and he take Greenland. You know, they may let the China, maybe Taiwan is a bargaining chip. I don't know. Nobody knows, but we do know that things are getting rough. And Donald Trump, he's very direct and he knows what he's doing. I believe that he's shrinking government because he has to find a way to pay for a lot of things. You know, when you downsize a company to increase profits, our national debt now is like 36 trillion, and that's not Trump's fault. It was 5 trillion when George Bush got in office, was sworn in January 2001. 5 trillion or 5.6, and look at it now. 24 years later, they've added $31 trillion to the debt. And if you go to the grocery store, you know everything is more expensive. It really is important because our dollar buys a lot less than it used to. So I think Trump is on track. I don't know if it's too little, too late. There's going to be pain. There's going to be pain. There's no way around it. They've kicked the can down the road long enough, and now the rubber meets the road. So there's going to be pain. Prices are going to go up. People are going to get laid off. It's just what it is. I'm not celebrating it, but everybody knew it was going to happen, but they were stalling it by doing what? By borrowing more money. Right now, the interest on the national debt is over $1 trillion a year. That's more money than spent on the military. I listened to Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, speak, and there's things they're trying to get rid of because they want to shrink the waste, right, and focus on weapons and artillery or weaponry that we need. There's a shortage of tungsten, which is a metal needed for explosions, bullets, and all these things. And it comes from China. Yo, we are in such a bad shape. We're in such bad shape, man. We have to pay attention to the global happenings because they're all going to affect what happens in America. The tariffs on Mexico and naming of the Mexican cartels as terrorist organizations, those are big. Trump is being portrayed as this wild, loony guy, renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. All these provocative things. But I think what he's really, really doing in his own way is demonstrating that it's a new sheriff in town. Now, it may sound like I'm in full support of Trump. All I can say is that I really hope things work out the way he thinks they will. Because if they don't, we're all in trouble. So you just gotta hope for the best, It's something else to be alive at this time because America is at this pivotal moment in history where it's either going to overcome the challenges in front of it or it's going to succumb to them. And it's going to happen before 2030. So that means we're all going to see. And who knows what comes after this? I don't think any of us are prepared for that.
Okay. I think it sounds like you were two more. So the Negro Wranglers.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that term?
I didn't create it. I've heard it before. I can't remember where. But there are certain people in their job is to tell black folks what they should fight for, even who they are. Those are the people that got black people convinced that, that they should be, pro children having gender transitions. Like I don't have a take on any of this stuff, right? I'll just say at 60 years old, none of this was common among black people until Obama. Obama introduced all of this. That doesn't mean that we didn't have gays. Yes, we did. James Baldwin was gay. Bayard Rustin was gay. He was a big part of the March on Washington. We've always had gay. But it seems like we're obsessed with it now. And I don't know if that's beneficial to us as a whole. Because it's almost, I think part of the reason why politics emphasizes LGBTQ, because it's easy to satisfy them, right? If they get the right to marry or, they get to use whatever pronouns, it doesn't cost anything. That's a cheap fix right there. They're satisfied with symbolism. It's when you start asking for hard solutions that require resources. Well, now we got to look at this again. But if all you want is the acknowledgement and a parade that you can have every year, and the right to fly your little colorful flag, no problem, because it doesn't cost anybody anything. None of that stuff eats up out of the budget. And it makes those people feel pretty good. So yeah, you would encourage everybody to get involved with that because you could satisfy them without giving them any money. Because the less money you give to people, the more you have to steal for yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Symbolism is so big with the charlatans, right? And I don't just mean LGBTQ. I'm talking about even with blacks. Juneteenth, this, that. Those things cost nothing. But they make people feel like they receive something. And that's what they do. That's the trick. Keep giving us a whole bunch of stuff that can't do anything for us. Whether you're black, whether you're gay, whatever. It's all symbolism. All style, no substance. You sit around feeling like you've made progress and then can't understand why nothing's changed. Well, you accepted the symbolism as something of substance.
Okay. All right. I think we'll wrap up there.
Okay.
Curtis, thank you for coming and speaking and sharing some of your time and experiences. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Just everyone visit ScoonTV.com every day. Download the app. It's a news aggregator, and I have exclusive content in the town hall. We do have a paywall if you want to see some of my perspectives. I post about 4 blogs every week on current events, social issues, but I do it on my own platform, and I do it exclusively for the people who pay, not because I'm selling it to them, but because I appreciate their support, and I want to give them something that everyone else doesn't have access to. But the website is free. The app is free. You can read the content in my town hall. I have writers from around the world: Serbia, India, Gaza, South Africa. I write. And if you like those articles, please feel free to share them on social media, Facebook or what have you. I got a lot of great writers. I happen to be a pretty decent writer myself. There's an article, I just wrote 2 articles this year for the first time in over 2 years. There's one about boxing, a history of boxing in black and white. It's a long article, but it's the type of journalism that we haven't seen since Esquire and GQ used to have those big pieces in New Yorker magazine. And then I also did one called The Devil and Mr. Combs, a play on the devil and Mrs. Jones, and it's about Sean Diddy Combs. And both of them are doing very well and getting circulated, well written. And I do have some other articles that are older about Russia, about China, and what have you. Yeah, peruse my town hall. Check the stuff out, good stuff. And if you like it, please share. And if you really, really like what you see, support the platform and become a paid subscriber. Thank you.
Okay. I will thank you, Curtis. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap up here. Since
Okay.
a bunch of guys have subscribed already. But yeah, I'll talk to you offline.
All right, cool, man. Just call me. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm gone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, everyone. That was Curtis Scoon. So while we talked for 2 hours and 15 minutes. So yeah, that was hopefully I can get him again when it's not Black History Month. But I think he gave us a lot to think about there and told us some cool stories. So everyone, I'm gonna thank you, Curtis, for those insights and those stories. And I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up because I have to go make the donuts tomorrow in person. So with that, everyone, thank you for hanging out. Those of you who hung out for the entire duration of the interview. And yeah, look, I think I might do one more on Wednesday night to wrap up Black History Month 2025. So with that, everyone, please like, share, subscribe. My thank you to those of you who donated. You can leave a super thanks. My Cash App and PayPal are in the description box. The information regarding my book is there as well. So I'm going to wrap this up. As always, remember, everyone, that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Slick Rick, I see you there. Blowing your flamethrower again. This time it looks like it's on. It's at G-Day. Okay. Yeah, those words at the end that Curtis had about the United States were pretty sobering because that 2030 is only 5 years away. It's only 5 years away. So I think everybody's trying to get their bearings in what's happening now early in January 2025. So yeah, let's pray and let's see what happens. So with that, everyone, I'll talk to you the next time. Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.